What's the best player for every single budget? Today, we're talking attackers, and we have three categories. Expensive, which is over 1.5 million coins. Value, we're looking at 500K. And then cheap, under 100K. We have strikers, left wingers, and right wingers. My personal selections. If you'd like to see us bring this to fruition, it's a brand new concept, drop a like, get in the comment section. A lot of subjectivity. Strikers seems like the place to get started. When we're talking expensive, there has to be a version of Mbappe in your lineup, your rotation. He is a game changer, difference maker, disgusting, filthy sweat machine. And I mean that, I think, in a complimentary way. I would start off with the gold. Still good to go. Gonna be the most attainable, the most affordable, sort of in this budget range. And I'm not gonna sit here and tell you about every team of the year player that you have no business being able to attain, even on the expensive end. By all means, if Mbappe's team of the year is a potential pickup for you, go get him. I'm just saying you should prioritize getting a version or iteration of Mbappe in the rotation. Some of you, it might be the SBC. Sophia Smith. I'm talking team of the year. Currently dabbling in the 2 million coin zone, depending if you get some good fortune. She is an absolute, unstoppable, unmovable, fearless attacker. She scores goals like they are going out of style. She is fashionably disruptive. I hate going up against Sophia Smith, and as a return of what you're spending to what you're receiving, through the roof. And then Mia Hamm, brand new icon. I believe it has to be brought up. Her 93, much more reasonable. The pack gods could have been on your side. Maybe you did some generation. You opened some out of pockets. You've been grinding. I just feel I would be doing an injustice to not bring up the likes of Mia Hamm. We're talking about strikers, difference makers, and the fact that her 93, even though she's expensive, is not impossible. It's feasible. You can grind towards that item. You might need some good fortune and some extra helpings, but it's expensive for a reason. Value section. So we're hovering around 500,000 coins. I like Alex Morgan. I've had that bias. Maybe it's the American in me. Maybe it's the fact that she scores for fun. I'm able to give you a lot of execution, the shoulders, the body feints, they're dropping, the finishing on point. I think she sometimes goes under the radar. Also an SBC item, which makes it easier to have been able to trade in players. She has multiple versions and variations. If this one's not possible for you, perhaps a different item of Alex Morgan would have still been feasible. You can get to the marketplace. If we're talking up front, there has to be some Haaland. You can pick, depends on your price point. In fact, he's one of the few players that would fit into all three categories. If you go for the gold, we had the free 87. In this case, for value, I've gone with an inform, is 93, maybe 600,000 coins, give or take, so slightly over the 500,000. You got the big budget, of course, team of the year, or Centurion, or the Dynasty. I know that he has that 94. It's another game breaker. If you've watched any of the pro scene, if you've been playing a bunch of weekend league or rivals, the game after the most recent patch has turned into a lot of these knockdowns as aerial pursuit, and Haaland is the best at it. You put it in his rotation, his wheelhouse, you let him chase it down, he wins the header, he facilitates for other attacking players, and he allows you to shift the way you play the game if you choose to go with aerial pursuit. The point that I'm making is that Haaland is a must, and you can pick the price point that you want to include him. And then Kelly Smith, often linked with Sophia Smith. For good reason. You get an icon at a 91 overall, solid track record, maybe not as hyped as some of the other icons, so you're getting a good value, a good return of investment, under 500,000 coins. And for me, she's always been authentic. Scores goals, able to coast and boast, gives you some braggadocious material. And I'm not sure if our opponents have gone up against Miss Smith nearly enough. I catch people off guard quite frequently. I like her dribbling. I think it's underrated. Simply put, you're getting yourself a feasible option that gets chemistry everywhere. As for the cheap beast, I've got Balotelli. If you watch me play at all, has to be here. It would be a disrespect if he wasn't. For our club, all weekend league, all division rivals, 210 games played, 179 goals, 72 assists. Fantastic contribution. And he's wearing a Christmas hat. Spoiler or no spoiler, you're not going to see a bunch of 86s being talked about at this current state of FC24. He was basically a free SBC. Next, that new Xerxes, the 88 overall, 6'4". Again, has a bit of a Haaland feel. You're seeing him used a lot off the bench. 25,000 coins. He's athletic. He's got skill moves. I just like Xerxes. I think that he fits into a category where he's an everyday's man. I saw a lot of content around Xerxes all over the YouTube sphere, so it's not just me. And he's dirt cheap. We can all generate what's necessary here. João Pedro, if you see that 89 overall, he strikes fear. I see João Pedro present day. I don't like it. I'm already feeling uncomfortable. This guy knows something. Kind of an original Sweat, an early weekend league factor, an X factor, if you will. This item was released very early into the rotation, into the FC ecosystem, and he's still prevalent and relevant, even more so if you are a through ball merchant. Left wingers, let's begin with the higher price tags. Henry, 93 overall, somewhere in the 3 million coin range. We never know how people are going to fluctuate. Again, this game is almost around scarcity with adding in ability. But just how many are actually available on the marketplace? This has been the best Henry we've seen in years. The explosiveness, the step over and go. He can knock down a back post cross, which gives you now some versatility that plays into current meta, finishes everything. I find myself not catching up to him. He's frustrating to go up against, and I prefer him out wide compared to playing up front. So I'm putting him as a left wing. Franck Ribéry, 92 overall, 2.7, 2.8 million coins with the upgrades. Big upgrades. We took his 88, got him to a 92. Explosive, the touches are clean, crispy. He's reliable. And then Vinicius Jr. It wouldn't be right. You can pick the Thunderstruck. In this case, I'm going to go with the Team of the Year version, which is nearing 3 million coins, and he has multiple play styles, and simply put, he's one of the fastest players, most explosive, responsiveness through the roof. I hate going up against Vinicius. It never goes well for me. He finds space where there is none. His R1 dribbling, I still have nightmares. He can cut inside, but he also is so fast that he can take you down the sideline or even down the end line for a cutback. He's a menace. The value pickups, and I went back and forth internally. We reflected. I'm starting out with Futra, where you can get not the newest version. That's an upgrade, and he might come down in price, but his Marvel Original, if you will, underrated. You're not overpaying for the type of winger that you're receiving. Dangerous out wide. Not a fun experience. And again, when I think of wingers, often it comes down to some of the quickness and the sidestepping capabilities. Even when you're defending, if you know what's happening and you're not able to stop that player, or the winger can penetrate and find space. This year in particular, they're so important for providing not only the crosses, but just giving you any level of innovation. Futra does just that. Lauren Hemp also was an SBC, right around 500,000 coins. I might have a bias. We've had a fantastic working relationship. I've used multiple variations of Lauren Hemp. Explosive, good money with both the Trivela and the finesse. She's got that whip pass she's providing. It's pinpoint, it's accurate. A lot of whippage, good trajectory. I'm rounding out with an icon that I don't understand why we don't see him more. Stoichkov. And you might say, well, would you prefer him on the right side or the left side or up front? I use him primarily as a left wing. He's left-footed. It feels natural, organic. You can hashtag it. I'll put on the sunglasses. But he gives you real level of explosion. Has some of that icon composure or cadence, if you will. If you know, then you know. There's something different about some of these upgradable players. And his dribbling, his first touch, it's good money. And at the moment, 370, 380,000 coins, at least as it's being recorded. We can pop up whatever the current day of price point. There's some movement. We know how this works. Cheap options. What are we talking about? I had to have Pena. That's right. The SBC Pena. If you know, then you know. 90 overall, and she's going to give you that cookbook. Some of you might prefer as a center mid or a cam. She can almost be a workshopping attacking option, but I like her out wide. Her touches and ability to turn, I find space, and I'm able to retain possession, which is always on my mind. When I'm building up, I got to be able to get some angling, and I don't want to lose the ball. Next to her, someone we're all familiar with. That 90 Bacha. SBC had to have been 150, maybe. And it's, again, SBC sprinkle. We all had players to insert. I prefer her as a winger at this point compared to a fullback. So I figured I'd put her into this specific category, and she'd fit into the cheap or the budget or the highly attainable. And it's a major reason we've seen her in action from rip, from jump. Maybe the most used SBC on the year. Gotta be right there. Last but not least, and I promise this won't be a theme, but I had to run it back with Vinicius Jr. Go get the gold item. 89 overall, currently 170K, but he will get cheaper. He's still packable. Someone that you will see within all these different promo options. He's been available. He's been on the marketplace. And at some point, he'll get outdated. But I still feel he should be mentioned in the cheap category for left wingers. So that's exactly what we've done. He's one of the few gold items that is still good enough to be completely weekend league certified. Right wingers. As per usual, let's get into the heavy pocketbooks. Georgie Best. What a grab. What a pickup. What an SBC. 93 overall, multiple play style plus. He does it all. I don't think I need to sell you on Georgie Best. You've witnessed it. You've experienced it. You're likely to have used him firsthand. And I'm just continuing with the cosign. Salah, who was kind of the original right midfielder, right winger. I believe I'd be doing an injustice to not have him mentioned. Depending on the version, 1.3 to maybe 1.7 million coins. It's kind of cuspy actually for this category if we're looking at expensive. I've seen the green one in action the most. The winner wild card. We've had the team of the year, honorable mentions. We've had SBCs. And we could see as time goes on, are other players going to replace him? I just don't think it would be right to not mention him as one of the top tier right wingers, especially with what he's already produced up to this point. My last selection, I've got Jairzinho at the 90 overall, sort of in that 2 million zone. Always been a class act when you're talking about certifiable right wingers. I kind of want to give a special shout out to Ginola. He has both the 89 and the 90 overall. They can be abusive. That man with the long hair, and you should care. I just didn't know if he took precedent over some of my choices. At least that's where I was coming from. Also a player that is attainable via SBC similar to Jairzinho, even though I don't like the price point for Ginola or Jairzinho on an SBC evaluation. Good value or even the budget options. Why is Diani not getting more public appreciation? You can get a 92 multiple playstyle plus 275,000 coins. Good luck in this marketplace to get options like Diani. And I think she is an absolute pleasure on the virtual pitch. I've been pleasantly surprised from the very beginning. Rodrigo. I'm throwing it back to the Trailblazers. And he might have been expensive at this point of the SBC, right around 500,000 coins. How could I not mention him? He still gets burned. And he's a club legend. 422 games played. And again, I'm weekend league, division rivals, nothing else. 243 goals, 198 assists. When we're measuring contributions, we've got metrics, we've got stat lines. I don't think we have anyone in the club that has more caps, more appearances, and willing to show up to the big show. Has he potentially been caught up to? I'll hear that case. But Detective Dirty Mike is not giving up on the Rodrigo investigation. Rounding it out, we've got Hansen, also a Trailblazers, at a 91. And if you can, in some realm, in some world, afford the Team of the Year Hansen, of course. If that's possible for you, then she should be your highest priority for this position. I didn't want to force feed you options that I felt were unrealistic, not only for the majority, but even for the players that have been spending real amounts of cash flow. You've been buying those packs. You still are unlikely to be able to even credit card FC into a Team of the Year Hansen. But the Trailblazers has came down in price, sitting maybe around 700K, so just over kind of the budget range. But I expect her price to also drop as the game gets more upgrades and more higher rated players. And she should fit into this category. And I still look at it as a value choice and a player that is attainable. And I see her constantly, so it's not just me. Plenty of you have been able to make this pickup. The Cheap Beast, this brand new McManaman, 91 overall, 180,000 coins, purple hero, good track record. I like this previous item. A lot of stats. You're getting everything pumped into a player that maybe doesn't have the hype or the big name, but he does have the ability. I rate McManaman. Dybala, we're talking SBC action. This is kind of the cheap Salah, if you will. Has that ingenuity. Again, you know he can cut inside. You know that he's likely to do so. Gets it on the left foot, but you don't always stop it. And he can be a floating attacker, which I like to have versatility. I like options, whether you need an attacking mid, a secondary striker, a false nine, out wide on the right side, out wide on the left side, depending how you're trying to package your attack. And then brand spanking new. This is Julie. 90 overall for 90K on an SBC. Everyone should be completing or have already completed this item. Purple options, easy links, chemistry on point, explosiveness out wide, and feels like a winger. Gives you certain shimmies and shakes, and I always look at the step overs and the body feints and the danger elements. This guy gets busy. Let the Frenchman do what he's supposed to do. Those are my thoughts. Personal preference, of course. I look forward to your comments. If you want more of the series, drop a like, get in the comment section. We'll do a version for the midfield and then the defenders, maybe even something with the goalkeepers. It might be a much shorter video, but I'm happy to put together each of the main tiers in the categories. And I wanted to have a little more time to spend with some of my opinions on players within different budgets. As always, I have a lot more content coming out ASAP.